Career goals certainly may not focus on creating content. Honestly, a lot of mine didn't directly include producing videos in terms of my job description. Being able to produce, good enough quality, informative, sort of tutorial or technical videos is, I think, absolutely a job ad. Again, in what I kind of learned in these roles, it wasn't part of my official job, but being able to do those things absolutely enhanced the job that I was, contracted and asked to do. I also found that most people that I worked with did not have any experience or training or even a very high comfort level being on camera or producing videos or even recording their voice for things. So if you can be that person, right, that probably one of very few people on your team that has that experience, knows what to do, is a lot more confident, you can definitely stand out, contribute in ways that other people just aren't able to, and again, complement the work that you're already doing. So with that context in mind, this mini lecture is just going to quickly review what are we talking about when we say technical videos, run through some of the key equipment that you might need. I'll give you a behind the scenes look at some of the equipment I use for this video, and then talk about the 3 most common forms of technical videos you are more likely to create if you end up needing to create a technical video at work. All right, let's start with, basic, what is a technical video? A technical video is really any kind of video that explains, complex or technical information. It follows the same rules as technical writing, right? It's a genre of video that is focused on end users in very action-heavy context to help inform people so they can make a decision, or teach people so that way they can follow, right? The actions, the steps, do the things that they need to do probably for their work, probably to, accomplish a specific goal in their life, in their house, on the job, rather than, the more entertaining or even infotainment styles of videos that are much more watched for interest, pleasure, rather than needing to watch it, which defines technical writing in our technical discipline. Here are a few specific examples of where these sort of tutorial kind of technical videos might show up in your careers and potential job roles. Right, a software developer at a tech company, right, decides to create a tutorial video on the new app. The video can help frame conversations with the product manager and other collaborators on all of those functions, features, needed updates, and more. Since it is, of course, much easier to talk about something when you have, right, that visual in front of you, you can actually see what it does, the workflow, kind of pause, go back, all of that stuff. This type of video could also be used to train your sales and other, client-facing folks, so that way they have a really good understanding of what your app does when they're then trying to pitch it, and get the consumers, the clients, the businesses to buy into what you've created. Maybe a biomed technician, anything like that in a hospital, creates a technical video to demonstrate the use of a newly acquired piece of medical equipment. The target audience in this case, right, might be all the medical staff who do need to be able to use that equipment, make sure they're following all the right steps. Well, you would probably have live, in-person training sessions with them. You would obviously give them, the user manual, create maybe a 1-page instruction sheet for them to reference. It can also be useful to record your tutorial, your demo of the product, have it in that resource library so people can recap, refresh, and go back and watch it later. The through line with all of those scenarios that you should have picked up on or could be thinking about is, that video production was not a central part of any of those job descriptions, most likely, but instead creating, right, that technical video is something that enhances the job, makes the projects more usable, and helps you be a lot more efficient when interacting with others. Next up, let's just dive into some of the basic equipment that you would need if you're going to try and create a basic tutorial or technical video. High quality videos obviously require high quality equipment. The things that you literally use to record your video and your audio do place a limit and kind of a cap on how good in terms of the actual visual audio quality your content's going to be. But again, since probably your job is not going to be a video producer, instead you will produce videos as part of your job, you don't really have to worry that much about the equipment. You probably will be able to get away with, fairly entry level options, or maybe things that you already have as part of your work packet and your work tech. You do need, of course, an external camera. You can use a kind of more simple or entry level DSLR camera. You could use, a high quality like streamer webcam, or in many cases, one of your newer gen phones. All would be a good enough camera for likely the level of videos that you would be creating. For this lecture video, I'm actually using a Sony ZV-E10 model, which was made with video recording kind of in mind first, and still photography as a secondary function of what the camera is made for and built for. I also have a Logitech StreamCam, which produces a video quality that looks a lot like this. Listen, as long as your equipment can capture, the standard 1080p at 24 FPS, you're gonna be fine. If you end up in a role where you make higher stakes and need even higher quality equipment, your company will give that to you, and probably, you're gonna have a very different role than the majors, right, in this class. Then you obviously need a microphone. To me and most audiences, nothing is more grating than poor audio, and this is something that I struggled with when I first started creating, and continue to learn and improve as I get better and better, and keep trying to make technical and instructional and just different types of video content. So right now I am using a lav mic, which is transmitting, wirelessly from the sort of little microphone on my lapel collar over to the transmitter that's plugged into the camera. The camera that is built, or the microphone that's built into my camera, is I also have a just simple Yeti Nano that plugs in through a USB directly into the computer, which I use a lot for narration, voiceovers, as well as during video calls and conferences. So you probably have a good mic already, especially if your company has a lot of Zoom meetings. You probably want to get a different microphone so that way you sound crisp and clear in those settings. And you can use that for your tutorial video too. Audio production, audio engineering is an entire career field and job title, and really cool, really fun, but very deep rabbit hole you can go down if you end up needing that information or want to get into, more advanced video editing. For your levels, just make sure your audio is clear, it's not buzzy, it's not grating, it's not too loud, it's not too quiet, and I'm sure your audience will be fine. All right, next I'm going to talk about the 3 most common types of technical videos that I have created and that I suspect or predict you would be most likely to create if you end up needing to create a technical video in your various career fields. The first is what I call voice narration. For me, this is what I consider that style when I'm not on the screen at all. I completely edit and control and create all the visuals that you are seeing, and I just record the audio to place into, the video track. This is definitely a great option if you are super nervous in front of the camera, if you tend to sort of maybe forget your place or stumble or forget what you're supposed to say a lot. Probably you want to do just a voice narration option. The reason is because you're not on camera. So you can read a script fully. You don't have to worry about remembering lines or looking into a camera. You can just read it and redo as many takes as you need, edit that audio around, cut out your ums or your stumbles. No stress, right? You're able to really control what the audio sounds like. I personally find this style to be one of the more time consuming. I definitely think it creates the most interesting and engaging videos. I think, end up turning out the best and being the most fun for me and the audience, but they definitely take me the longest, and for me are some of the most annoying versions. So if I'm gonna do it, it really needs to, be evergreen, something that's gonna last a long time without needing to be updated, and really kind of worth it for the audience. And the reason why it takes so long and can be a little bit annoying is because there's no visuals to kind of fall back on or rely on. Everything the audience sees, you have to place in there to correlate with your narration. And these can be, again, really fun and engaging if you put a ton of work in, or incredibly boring. Think somebody just talking over a slide that never changes for 5 minutes. That version is super easy to do, but super, super boring for everybody involved. As a little insider tip I've discovered, if you are making a voiceover narration video, I like to actually increase the rate up about 2 to 3%, which just gives my audio a little bit more of a bounce while shaving pretty precious seconds off the experience. Right? Technical videos follow the same rules as our technical writing. Our audience is watching it because they have to for some reason, right? They have a goal, that's why they want the content, not because they, super want to. It's not an interest, it's not necessarily a fun entertainment situation. So any seconds that I can shave off it is important, and giving it any more kind of like interest and dynamic aspects I think is really helpful too. Here is a clip at 3%, so that way you can hear the difference. So before, right, when I'm talking to camera, I don't speed it up at all because that would make my movements really sped up and be awkward. But when it's just the voiceover narration and you don't see how much faster and kind of uncanny my movements are, you can actually listen to it there. So that is a 3% clip. And now here is me talking at a 4.5%. Notice how even that small difference, only a percent faster, actually changes the pitch. I'm a little bit chipmunky and a little bit uncanny, but for me, you'll figure it out for your own speaking style. I found that right at that 2.5 doesn't change my voice too much, while again, just giving me a little bit more bounciness in that style of video. In a much more standard kind of technical communication, education situation, think of a documentary. Most documentaries use a lot of voiceover narration, over the clips, and then they also blend it with our second style of video you're likely to make, which is called direct to camera. Speaking directly to camera, is really great. It builds a lot of connection. It can help with even things like credibility in your content. And if you are really comfortable and confident with public speaking, you feel like you can remember talking points or memorize scripts quite easily, this is going to be a very efficient, effective style of video for you to make. If though you get super nervous public speaking, you really struggle with seeing a camera in front of you, honestly, a lot of people do, even folks that are actually really good public speakers get a camera in front of them and suddenly everything changes. I've worked with people like that. This might not be the style for you, right? If you have to end up doing tons and tons of takes, that's obviously not going to be very efficient, and you might want to think about a different option. Basically, the speaking to camera is the style that I tend to prefer. It reminds me the most of, standing up and giving a lecture or a talk live. To be honest, I've always been just good at this thing. Some of you will feel very natural doing it and be able to produce tons of videos that, just go for it, right? Any kind of live streamer, most YouTubers, even if you create maybe a lot of TikTok or Instagram content, you are already doing a lot of direct-to-camera work, and probably set up really well to do a direct-to-camera tutorial video for a technical context. But others of you are going to feel extremely nervous, struggle, and just know that is completely normal. Lots of people honestly feel that way. Now, one kind of trick that I have used to help other people who are kind of struggling with the direct-to-camera needs or sections is to actually tape a photo right, like as close as you can to the camera lens as possible without, of course, impeding on the frame. So that way they feel like they're looking at somebody and not necessarily looking at the camera. I can put like little eyelashes on the top of my frame, like a little mouth underneath, so that way they know where to make eye contact. Now, if you've ever had to give a presentation, or if you ever probably or need to give a presentation virtually at work, or if you are doing a remote interview, really you are creating a direct-to-camera technical video because you are explaining stuff to the audience, but that audience is hidden away behind, a camera. And so you might use actually some of these strategies, especially as you do a virtual interview, just to help you out. So try to look into the camera as much as you can. That is your audience, that is your eye contact, and go ahead and print out a picture of something that you enjoy, or draw a smiley face and put it on, your webcam, again, as close as you can, sort of to the middle of the lens, just to remind you. That's where you need to look. You want to make eye contact. You don't want to be, constantly looking away at your screen, at your script. You don't want to be looking down at your computer. You want to look at them and relax, smile. It's okay. You're going to be fine. Just, imagine you're talking right to the person right there. That can all come across a little bit more authentic and personable and tend to work a bit better. Now, the final kind of most common version, I would say this is probably the number one thing that you would be most likely to create if you had to create something, is a demo. Right? So a demo video, this could be a digital demo where you're doing a screen recording, of the new tech, the software, how to do something. Or it could also be a physical demo where you have, a physical product and you're showing people how to use it. The point of a demo is to walk people through all of the steps, in sequence, including maybe tips, context, troubleshooting, so that way they can use that product effectively, safely, and easily. When I make kind of a demo video, I like to first do a practice run. And as I do it, I actually take notes and create an outline of any trouble areas, things that I feel like I'm likely to stumble on, or places where maybe errors come up, especially if you're doing like a software demo. We know bugs are going to happen. And so it's just good to know, where they might come up and what you're going to say or do if it does happen. I also like to take notes on places I want to add more commentary, or places I think there could be questions, so that way I can stop and address them, and any other talking points or notes. Then I take my outline and I put it up on, my second screen if I'm doing a digital demo, where I print it out, in a really huge font, and put it somewhere near the camera, or just, off frame if it's a physical demo. So that way I have, again, just that outline, the guide, so I'm not skipping any steps or context, and I just have all the notes that I need for a successful demonstration and tutorial of what it is. I watch demo videos all the time. Right now we are renovating our house, trying to do as much work as we can ourselves, outside of safety concerns, of course. So I watch tons of demos. In that case, places like Home Renovision or various, kind of DIY house flipping channels, just to see, how to do it, what to do, kind of what are the steps that people are taking. I also go directly to product websites, manufacturer websites, and then places like Home Depot, Lowe's, they have blogs and a lot of videos to use and complete a lot of projects that absolutely are helping me, with my end user action. So literally, if you need examples of all three of these video types, I do recommend go to the Home Depot website, go to kind of the learning resources, and just watch some of the videos that they've created, really telling people how to interact with technical equipment, how to complete, these projects, just really good demos and tutorials. So to wrap up, we covered just some of the basics, expanding on creating technical videos as this mini lecture. It's something that can pretty much always be helpful and useful in a job, but is rarely part of people's direct job descriptions. Probably not something most people will expect you to create, but if you do go off and create a video, often it can be a pretty high value, pretty easy to impress people option. So really, I would just recommend start playing around. Just try to create a video of something. Start by using your phone, and just make a video of something, a hobby, something you routinely do in your life, and just get started playing around with it. The more that we just create with different tools, different equipment, different mediums, the more we're actually practicing and flexing our creativity. We're actually using some creative thinking, some problem solving, all of those core skills that help in most every situation, life, any job. So I recommend, just play around, try to make a video. It can be pretty fun, and pretty valuable.